Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is Alan and welcome to my hometown of New York City. 7 years ago, a frost giant by the name of Loki came to our beautiful city and opened up a portal right above Midtown, sending waves and waves of aliens crashing down onto Manhattan. Since then, we've mostly recovered, but I want to go back to this terrifying time in our history and analyze what we could have done better to defend our city. This is Everything Wrong with the Battle of New York.
Look out!
Now let's begin as always by looking at the combatants on both sides of this battle. First we have Loki, a former frost giant who was adopted by Odin during the Asgard-Jotunheim War. This war started when Loki's dad, king of the frost giants, Laufey, invaded Norway in 1965 AD and caused an ice age. Yes, that's how it happens. Don't believe your history or science teacher. Ice ages are not caused by climate change, but by frost giants. And you heard it here first on Generation Films. Anyway, the frost giants were large humanoids and extremely powerful and durable. Loki was considered a runt compared to most frost giants, which is why for centuries Odin had convinced everyone that he was an Asgardian. Loki had encountered the Other, a servant of Thanos who had given him a powerful scepter that housed inside it the Mind Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. This scepter allowed Loki to fire out energy blasts and also control the minds of other sentient beings, and for the purposes of his invasion of Earth, control over the Chitauri. The Chitauri were an advanced cyborg race that served Thanos. They had been trapped in the asteroid field known as the Sanctuary in dead space between dimensions for eons. Naturally, they were dying to return to a world with pleasant things like sunlight. The Chitauri were a reptilian race that was born organically and then enhanced by implants and chemicals which made them fearless warriors with no self-preservation instincts. They had superior strength when compared to humans, and they had armor fused onto their body. They were armed with energy rifles and rode into battle on flying machines, including the Chitauri Chariot and the massive Leviathan. These were genetically altered star sharks, the mortal enemy of star dolphins, and they were modified with armored plating and anti-gravity pods. Not only were they extremely terrifying, they could also fly and serve as a weapons platform and troop transport. The Chitauri and their flying vehicles and the Leviathan were all connected together in a hive mind which was operating from a mothership. This gave them instantaneous communication with each other, which meant they had a huge strategic advantage over the humans. The only problem is if their connection to their mothership is destroyed, then the entire Chitauri army will also be disabled. The Chitauri are also cold-blooded and extremely vulnerable to extreme temperatures. On humanity's side, we have the NYPD and NYFD and about a few million terrified New Yorkers. Then there's Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Bruce Banner, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and some S.H.I.E.L.D. assets led by Nick Fury. It's clear the defenders of Earth were completely outnumbered during this confrontation. Loki brought the Chitauri army to New York because he wanted to show the world that he was more powerful than the Avengers. There was also a secondary purpose to his mission. Loki had promised Thanos that he would return the Tesseract, which held the Space Stone, back to him after the mission. Loki, with the help of Eric Selvig, had managed to use the Tesseract to create a portal to the Sanctuary, allowing the Chitauri invasion to start. Now, the Avengers were pretty unorganized and had just recently formed, so they were pretty unprepared for this battle. Their initial strategy was splitting up into 2 forces, one engaging the Chitauri on the ground and preventing civilian casualties, and another portion of the force went after Loki.
Call it, Captain.
All right, listen up. Until we can close that portal, our priority is containment.
It might be cruel to say this, but I believe going after the Chitauri and trying to prevent civilian casualties was a bit futile. There's basically no way the Avengers could stop all of those aliens. After realizing they could no longer hold the Chitauri at the portal, they should have immediately focused all of their attention on going after the portal and taking out Loki. The amount of Chitauri pouring through the portal was growing by the minute, and although the Avengers were excellent fighters, they were completely outnumbered and incapable of stopping widespread damage to the city. Another thing that kind of seemed strange was that Iron Man's AI, Jarvis, wasn't able to somehow detect the Chitauri's main weakness, which is their hive mind. We know that the mothership needs to be within range of the Chitauri in order to control them, so most likely they were communicating using some kind of energy wave. Something that Jarvis could have picked up immediately after just scanning the area, and then the Avengers would know exactly what to target. Although the Tesseract portal was surrounded by an invisible shield, it was placed on top of a building that was destructible. Iron Man could have tried destroying the ground beneath the portal, and that would have probably shifted the contents within the energy bubble. Sure, it might not damage the thing inside the energy bubble, but by tilting it on its side, maybe some piece of the machinery will fall apart. Just like when you take a car and you flip it upside down and it gets oil and fuel and everything all over the place. Some machines just are not designed to work on their side. And while Iron Man is doing that, the rest of the Avengers should be chasing down Loki and focusing on extracting information on how to stop the invasion. Or better yet, they could knock Eric Selvig out of his trance just like they did with Hawkeye and get him to explain how to stop Loki and the portal. While the more powerful superheroes focus on stopping the portal, Captain America, Hawkeye, and Black Widow can focus on organizing an evacuation of the city. Now, in the film it says that the National Guard will take an hour before they can reach the scene. Which makes sense. The governor of New York would have to make a request, and you know the Lincoln and Holland Tunnel is a nightmare, and even on the GW of Verrazano there's going to be gridlock. So 1 hour does seem pretty accurate. However, since 9/11, and probably even before that, there are military jets on call 24/7 in the tri-state area in case this very scenario happens. Well, maybe they weren't expecting an alien invasion. But there are several air bases in the tri-state area, including the 177th Fighter Wing out of AC, that could have brought some real pain to the Chitauri forces. As big and scary as the Leviathans were, I'm sure an air-to-air missiles could probably take one out of the sky pretty quickly. There is also the SHIELD helicarrier. It might have been damaged, but the F-35s on it weren't, as we saw later when they launched a tactical nuke from one. And although we only see normal NYPD patrolmen on the streets armed with just sidearms, the NYPD is probably one of the best armed and best funded police forces in the entire world. With 34,000 officers and a budget of $4.6 million, that's roughly the same amount that countries like Vietnam and Sweden spend on their entire defense budget. Most important transit hubs in New York City are patrolled not only by National Guardsmen, but also Port Authority units and special NYPD anti-terrorism units equipped with some pretty heavy firepower. Although the police force and SWAT team are only really geared towards policing non-lethal takedowns and short, quick firefights, there would be enough well-armed officers in New York City to fight back against the Chitauri and do some real damage. The strange thing is, according to the internet, only 74 New Yorkers died in this entire battle. And knowing New York, that just seems unlikely. I smell a government cover-up. The rare instances there ever is a gun battle in Manhattan. For every bullet fired in New York City, 3 bystanders usually get hit, and that's even when a well-trained police officer is doing the shooting. There are just way too many people in New York City. As a matter of fact, when that giant Leviathan crashes through Grand Central, I guarantee you more than 74 people died there alone. That's actually how British Ben lost his legs and now has robot legs. It's also why you never see below his waist whenever he comes on this show. But probably the most egregious part of the Battle of New York was the end of the film, where Iron Man suggests that the Avengers go for shawarma.
You ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
As a New Yorker, Tony Stark failed us all. I mean, he was hosting some of the most important superheroes in the galaxy, including a god, and introducing them to basically the most traditional and customary New York dish, shawarma. But instead of taking him to one of the great halal carts we have in the city, he takes him to a typical New York City Midtown deli.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. You want to have shawarma in New York City, that's great. Shawarma is literally heaven wrapped in a tinfoil blanket. It is food vomited from God's orifices. But god damn it, do not eat shawarma with a roof above your head. You eat it outside from a food cart like a civilized human being. Thank you.
While we're on the topic of good food and where to get it, me and Ben are excited to announce that we just started a new channel called Generation Yum, where me and Ben will be chronicling all of our food and motorcycle travel adventures. It's 10 days to ride across as much of Thailand as possible. 3 friends on 3 motorcycles. This is the Thailand Motorcycle Food Diary.
So, if you're interested in this stuff, click in the top right corner to subscribe. Listen, the channel's a work in progress, but we got a lot of great videos coming, so please join us.
Oh, God. I've been doing this tonight. My name is Alan.
My name is American Ben. Generation Films, peace.
I hate tinfoil.
It's horrible.